It only took a mere week, but Republican Steve Hilton advancing to the general election for California governor, and he will go head-to-head with once Biden flunky Javier Becerra. And he says that the uber blue state may surprise this nation.
California is a much more Republican state than people think. If you look at the numbers of people who voted for President Trump in California, 6.1 million in 2024, without the president really even campaigning here. If all of those people vote for me in November, that's probably enough to win.
From now until November, egregious taxes in the state are set to take center stage on the campaign trails. Voters are already sending signals that they're not game for the left's tax crusade, rejecting multiple measures over the past few years, including a 2022 attempt to tax millionaires in order to generate revenue to fight climate change, a 2024 Justice for Renters Act to institute rent control on residential property, and just last week, San Francisco rejected a tax on companies with highly paid CEOs.
Joining us to discuss live on set, Fox News contributor Liz Peek and strategic communications expert Lee Carter. Great to see both of you ladies. Brian mentioned the San Francisco, the voters there rejecting the tax hike on companies with highly paid executives. But there were rejections in Los Angeles County of an increase in the local sales tax, City of Los Angeles. There was that extra taxation down in San Diego on second homes that was also rejected. Can Steve Hilton use that and tap into whatever people are feeling about burdensome taxation?
He absolutely can. And I think when you look at the voters that are coming out for him, it's not just about saying that we're going to come out as conservatives. They're saying this system is not working for us. California is not working for us. The tax system is not working for us. Everything seems broken, and that's what his appeal is. And when you look at some of the polling and all of this, the enthusiasm for Hilton is much stronger than it is for anybody else. And so if he can get that turnout, if he can get people excited about getting back to something that they feel like they've lost, I think he's in the right place. And he shouldn't be running against Democrats. He should be running against a broken system. And that's what he's doing in all of his messaging, and it's very smart.
What do you think, Liz?
I think the same thing. There's the turnout in this election was abysmal. And I think that's because Becerra is an extremely boring, traditional Democrat. There's no fire there. There's no message there. Steve Hilton has a message. 70% of California voters want change. He is promising change, and he will deliver. They know that. So I think the tax stuff is extremely revealing. People are tired of not just taxes, by the way. It's the most expensive place in the country to live. So, you know, there are all kinds of things Steve Hilton can run on. I agree with you. Don't go after the Democrats. Just say this isn't working. Let's change it. Simple message.
All right, I want to turn to Maine, where nasty Graham Platner has officially won his primary. Now the National Republican Senatorial Committee, tasked with electing GOP candidates, has a warning to the party.
Quote, "It is a fatal mistake to assume Platner is too damaged to win," adding, "The Democratic coalition is consolidating their donors, are engaging, and they are preparing to spend whatever is necessary to win." Lee, I watched some of the interviews, like one of the Morning Joe, where Joe was setting him up, basically saying, "Oh, you're a sleazebag because you have PTSD," was in essence. But what do you think of this?
So I think that Republicans need to be very careful here, because the instinct is just to point out how wrong it is, how hypocritical everybody is by going after him. That's not what people want to hear. What people want to hear is what you're going to do for me. There's so many people in this country who are so frustrated with the way things are going that if the Democrats are smart, they're going to run against Susan Collins and say, "You're more of the same. You're part of the establishment, the political elite. I'm an outsider that's going to fight for you." Sounds like a similar page that we were talking about. That's what people want, even if it's an imperfect candidate. They're willing to accept the flaws. So I think they need to be very, very careful about how they run here. And everybody needs to just hold their nose and just ignore him. And then focus on what matters most to the people.
Liz, I'm going to admit, I'm watching Platner. I watched those interviews as well, and they were totally leading interviews. But Platner, he kind of, if you forget about his past, the guy embodies the idea they were going for with Walz and couldn't get. And they like the idea of Platner. And I think he's got a shot, Liz.
No question.
This is like in the most vain, superficial way. I think he's got a shot. Tell me I'm wrong, but I agree with Republicans. They shouldn't sleep on this guy.
Yeah, I think he has a shot. And what is the NSRC, CR, whatever, going to do about it? They've got tons of money. I'm on social media. Platner is there every 30 seconds. He's out calling Susan Collins corrupt and inept and all this stuff. He is on the attack. Where's she? I don't see anything coming from her or her campaign. So she cannot just sit back and assume that all these character flaws and bad behavior are going to tank him. I don't think it's going to. I totally agree with you. Voters in Maine, as they did in New York, are really attracted to the youth, the energy, and the promises. And they may be completely vapid, empty promises, but what is Susan Collins offering? She's been there for decades, folks, and it's a problem. I think she has a real fight on her hands, but I think the party needs to step up. And by the way, the party needs to support the California race too, John, with Hilton.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I personally just can't get past the Nazi death camp tattoo.
Yeah, of course.
No, I can't either.
There's a
horrifying.
fatal flaw, but I'm not dismissing what you're saying at all. But that's it's like not a flaw. That's a fatal flaw in terms of a candidate, and they just don't see
Totally
it that way.
agree.
One more. Cracker Barrel. That stock surging today. Get a load of that. After posting, the company did a surprise profit in its most recent quarter. And while we wish we could say the rebrand drama is a ghost of wokeism past, that surprise profit was in part because of a big old lawsuit payout and cost cutting. But Cracker Barrel is still trying to get back to its roots. The company is going full Americana ahead of America 250. Some Star Spangled merch smack dab in the middle of its country store. Liz?
Well, I think that's great, and they should prosper as a result of that. This quarter didn't really reflect that, but actually considering that they serve a demographic that's not doing very well economically, I think actually their quarter was pretty respectable.
Lee, those boots look pretty good. Quick last thought.
I'm in. And when you are a brand, lean into who you are. People love that brand as being an Americana brand, and that's exactly what they should be doing, celebrating
Totally.
America 250. Well done.
Lee Carter, Liz Peek, great to see you guys. Thanks for
Thank
being
you
here
for
tonight.